There's so much to be said.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today on This Needs to Be Said. Our friend Christine Kingston is back with us today, and we're going to talk about getting ready for the next recession. Believe it or not, one is coming. Christine, I'm just going to welcome you back in really quickly because we've already talked to you before, so you're no longer a guest, you're family now. But we're talking about getting ready for the next recession, and this was a conversation you and I had, and I wanted to have it again here for the TV audience. And you were telling me something, sharing some things with me that another recession is coming and how we should get ready. But even before that, you were giving me a history lesson about recession, and it became apparent to me that this is something that we should constantly see to be ready for. And I'm thinking,
absolutely.
I was thinking before talking to you that the last recession was, 2008. And before that, I think it was 1920s, the last time we had a depression, so that says a lot about what I know historically. And you're telling me that it happens more often than I'm realizing. So I'm going to stop for a second so you can share with us about the cycles of recession.
Yeah, to understand business is cyclical. And once we understand that business has cycles, and in the beginning, it's really fascinating when we look back from a historical perspective. Catherine, we didn't always have credit cards, right? We used to be what's called cash and carry society. And then the banks came in and created this thing called a credit card so that you could buy now and pay later. Now, what that did was, what's interesting, because before the credit cards came out, the business cycles, and we would have small little recessions every 5 years. What's interesting is credit cards came onto the scene, and then it became 7-year business cycle. And again, every 7 years, we'd hit a little bit of recession. You don't recognize it, Catherine, because it's small. It's just, they're cutting back and they're, reorganizing a little bit, and then we're going to get back out of it. Now, even after that, the 2008 Great Recession that everybody's now still kind of remembering, we're still not quite forgetting about it yet, is that brought in toxic mortgages, option arm, pick a pay loan. What that means is you get 4 choices, and this one down here changes the mortgage, makes the mortgage principal go up when you choose the lowest payment. That's the one that took the business cycle out 10 years. Where are we now? We are in a 10-year cycle. It's going to happen. It's going to happen any day now. And we need to be prepared for that. And guess what? It's going to happen again. So, and unless the government, right now, first of all, our country was built on debt. The Boston Tea Party was basically the bankruptcy against the European Union to form the United States. So we started on debt. Our country is built on debt. We have a huge amount of debt as a country. What's the problem here is we can't lower interest rates anymore. We don't have any backup plans right now as a country that's going to carry this business cycle out further, which is what they try to do by adjusting things. And so it's coming. And that's what we're bracing ourselves for. Are you going to lose your job? Then you need to cut back your budget. Are you carrying a bunch of debt? Have you thought about ways to get out of debt quickly? Because that's the one thing that no one can afford when they're unemployed. So, yeah, the history lesson is business cycles come and go. Right now, we're in 10-year cycles. They're trying to stretch them out as far as they can, but they're inevitable. I think we need a good recession every now and again so that we can, kill off the bad and then move on with only the good stuff that's coming down the pipeline and growing from there.
Now, what I have not understood personally, like, what is a depression? What is a recession? Because both of them sound like we're doing without. So help me.
Well, you're not, in all honesty, we're a consumer-driven society, Catherine. So guess what? A recession really is when you stop spending your money. And unless and until the American people stop spending money, then that's what keeps the economy going. So when you run out of money, we're in trouble. Right. And guess what? You're building your wealth on debt most of the time, right? Not you personally, not me personally, but most Americans are carrying more debt now than ever before. The government doesn't help us, by the way, because they think debt is just fun and they just can increase their credit line any minute they want. so that we don't hit a budget deficit. So, but you and I can't go just increase our credit line and go into more debt. That's really what a recession's all about, is when this consumer spending drops. Consumer spending drops when you run out of credit line and when you run out of jobs or income coming in. Then you have to stop spending. Other than that, we're a consumer-driven society. They have us all trained to want more. And that's part of the problem, I think. Everything's disposable and recyclable. Well, back in the day, right, it used to be quality made in America goods. That's gone. Your iPhone is gone in 2 seconds flat with new technology. They've got us all trained that you want the newest, latest, and best. And that's really what part of the problem is.
That's a big problem. Now, we are getting ready any day now, like expecting a baby. A recession is coming, a setback in our spending. I'm going to refuse to spend, which is going to hinder people who work at the places I normally spend money. That's going to affect a lot of different things when we all stop spending because we're trying to protect our homes, which is what this sounds like is going down to. So I'm thinking as you're talking, and I've heard people say, save up 6 months worth of expenses. But for people who are living paycheck to paycheck, that already sounds overwhelming. So my mind is saying, can we at least save 1 month's rent or mortgage? At least have that to the side. Maybe you'll never need it for rent, but that's probably the biggest payment that you're paying out of your household. And whatever your next biggest payment is, like make some goals, but we're not 100% sure that you'll get the money saved before the recession hits, but at least you'll be moving in the mindset of preparing yourself to cut back. You're thinking of, do I really need the cup of coffee from my favorite coffee house, or can I make coffee at home? And not because you're doing without, you're modifying how you can have. And maybe this is a really great time to get creative. If you like Starbucks coffee, maybe it's in the grocery store and you don't have to go through the line and pay, for the price of a 4-pack in the store for 1 cup when you go through the window. And this isn't me being stingy or a Scrooge, but there are certain things in my life that I like, and I try to figure out how to have them. I like going out to eat. So at nice restaurants, they have certain dishes I like. So if I discover that I'm not going to be able to afford it to go out, I try to figure out what does it cost to cook it at home. A ribeye steak is one of my favorites. So I went and bought a special pan for $10 from the store, and a cast iron pan. And I was able to make that. Now the restaurants can't even make it good enough for me because I've been at home practicing. Right. So I know that there's going to come a time, even if there's not a major recession in the world, there could be a recession at my house. So that's right. So what do I do so I don't feel like I'm going without, or, I've been punished because I can't afford? Get creative in what you do. Start practicing now, like a fire drill, I would say. But I'm giving the outline. They're going to give some details on how do we get prepared for this recession.
I think you're spot on, Catherine. We start with, first of all, it's called a budget. And that's not a bad word. Bankruptcy is not a bad word. They both start with B. No problem there. I know, right? Backup plan, things like that. So, one of the things that we do, and my husband and I do it more for fun than anything else, actually. We sit around and we look at our budget and we go, where can we cut, right? Insurance is mandatory. Well, do you understand how much insurance you have? Do you understand how much you need? Can you cut anything back? And then you go down line by line by line and go, where can I cut? What am I wasting my money on? What are these automatic payments coming out of my bank account for some subscription that I never even use? Mm-hmm. Sure, I like those box delivery services. It's like getting a gift in the mail every month, right? Well, can I live without it, right? What are the main things that you need? Food, clothing, and shelter. Above that, it's what you're talking about. I love my cup of coffee, or I love my ribeye steak. And you're doing exactly that. You're saying, how can I do the same thing and not feel guilty about it, and I'm saving money? Listen, Catherine, I'll tell you why I cook at home. Number one, I know what goes into my food. Nobody's spitting in my food or contaminating my food at a restaurant. Number two, I love private dining. Now, you can't get that when you go to a restaurant. You're staring at a bunch of strangers. It's really loud, and I got to yell at people. I mean, I already got ringing in my ears, right? So I like to cook at home and talk to my husband or watch something on TV. And the part I hate, cleaning up, Got it. No problem. My husband gets to do that because our rule is whoever cooks, the other one cleans. So, you know, it is what it is, right? When we're trying to cut the budget back, we're just cutting back on our spending. Here's the thing. When you really get the discipline part, right? It's when we're kids, mom and dad says, no, you can't have that. No, you can't have that. But when you're an adult, there's no one to tell you, no, you can't have that. And so it's not a matter of saying no and denying yourself and not lacking that self-love and self-care. It's a matter of, well, can I cut back? Can I still have what I want and do it within my budget? So basically, if you just go down and set a budget for everything that you need, including gifts for family, vacations you want to take, and you can even create, some people create separate bank accounts for all of that. Some people just do it on a sheet of paper. But if you spend the money on paper before the money actually goes out the door, now you're doing some pre-planning. That puts you in control of where your money goes to. And if you're servicing debt and you're paying a ton of money to the credit cards, and then you turn around and have to use those credit cards every month, that's the prospective client that will end up in my office at some point talking about bankruptcy when the credit lines are not going to give them any more. That's when you're starting to get in trouble. Do it without going into debt. You have to live inside those numbers. That's why we create a budget. It's not rocket science. I think everybody needs to do it. We don't teach it in school. So here I am as a bankruptcy attorney telling America how to be fiscally responsible and financial literacy 101 called Get Out of Debt Now and Never Come See Me Again.
That's a good problem to have. You know, I think people would say, well, Christine, how would you stay in business if we don't come see you? But there's always going to be someone who needs to reset their lives. So
it's all good.
Yeah. All these bad B words, budget.
I know, right?
Right. I like that. Do it as a game. I've never liked having to sit down and budget and look at all you have to do. Look at what we get to do. If we take care of our basic needs, the extra things that we want to do, how can we do that creatively? And for
example, my husband and I were looking at cable. All right, cable's a big one, right? Basic cable, I don't know, 50, 60, we were paying $150 a month for cable because my husband likes football. Okay. And we're $150 a month. That is $1,600 a year that we're spending for entertainment, and that doesn't include going to movies, going out to dinner, going to a concert if you want to do that, or all those other fun things that people want to do. Go to Disneyland, that'll cost you an entire year's pay. Don't worry about that. Right? So, we cut cable, $150 a month. You know what? I don't miss it. We got a little antenna on our roof. I got 150. I'm learning Korean, all different kinds of languages, and I get the same regular channels that everybody else gets. And the rest of it, we're watching on the internet. And my son, by the way, who's 27 now, he's never had regular TV. Kids aren't doing it these days. It's us old folks that are stuck on that old school cable stuff.
Yeah.
They don't even do it.
Yeah.
So that's just
there are some creative ways to look at.
Yeah. Exactly.
There's some creative ways to look at how to prepare. So what your house looks like versus my house versus anybody that's in the viewing audience's house. Look at what you really, what you need. I mean, because when I have company come over, I used to, and this is like a long time ago, I used to be nervous that my guests wouldn't have anything to watch, but I'm not having that much company. So either we're watching a movie or we're talking to each other or we're listening to music. So, and I don't think I need to pay for any of the streaming services that I can tolerate commercials through. So I ask myself, how important is that for me, to have commercials or to have programming that I can rewind or have programming that I can control, or the library has become one of my best friends. I have my original card from when my mom took me to the library as a kid. But I'm in the library. I know the librarians. You can check out movies from the library. You can have books transferred from one branch to another that's closer to you. So if you're thinking, oh, that's going to be out of my way, that's not on my route, there's so many great things you can do at the library. They have workshops. They have computer time if you don't have computers at home. So there's lots of things that you begin to look at when you look over your nice B word budget and
That's
began
right.
to prepare for a recession. And it's funny, I guess I've done it in a lot of ways. Like you automatically cut back when you just don't have it to spend, but maybe not
Yes.
in the way where you don't feel like you're suffering. But I've cut back and I said, man, I guess I missed that recession. I guess I was already broke. I didn't know that there was a recession going on because I'm spending the same thing, buying the same things that I would, normally spend my money on because it was me and three sons and they can eat you out of house and home one at a time. So I had to look at how am I going to feed them and me many times. How am I going to put clothes on them? They're growing faster than I want them to. And then they need something for school. There's always some fundraiser that they have to be in to get that pizza party. So when we're looking at our budget, we know the surprises that's going to come. Any unexpected thing from the school, candy sale, ticket sale, fundraiser that they're doing for the school, picture day. So you begin to, and Christmas, by the way, audience, is not a surprise. It comes every year the same day. But we always seem to last minute stop for things, birthdays or whatever. But you can plan.
Or how about if we just change it up? How about if we just change it up, Catherine, and say, you know what? Why don't we set a new goal for the family? No one buys anyone Christmas gifts. You know what's weird in my household? My family doesn't do that. Now my husband will have our grandkids and our kids over. Of course, we give the grandkids presents. The kids always need stuff, right? Because you're talking about when your sons are growing up. Now they get out on their own. They need a full set of everything.
Yes.
Trying to help them get started in their lives. That's when it's most expensive. People like you and I, Catherine, we're maybe at the place now where we don't need so much because we have all of those basics. But the basics are even more expensive, right? So one of the things that we'll do for the kids is we're going to give them silverware. You need silverware? We're going to give you silverware. We're not going to buy them something for entertainment purposes that they're not going to use, right? We're doing things for them that are going to help them get the basics met so that it propels them a little bit better to becoming more stable financially. Those are the things that we're going to do. So we can rethink gifting. We can set a budget for our gifting, or maybe we can get crafty with our gifting. I like to crochet. I have been making little crochet gifts for people, and that's how I save money. So, it's whatever you can do to make something in a homemade gift is way closer to the heart button than going out and buying something at Kohl's. You know what I'm saying?
It is.
So that keeps us out of debt. We stay on budget, spend more time with the family. Everybody needs love and attention and affection. They don't need your money. So if we shift our paradigm and change the way we think about this, budget is not a bad word. Budget is a very beautiful word. There's another B word, beautiful. Budgets are beautiful when you look at it from that perspective where now I'm living inside my means. I'm going to love on you more than I'm going to give you money. And if anybody needs money to pay bills, send them to a bankruptcy attorney, because wouldn't you rather help them once to get through a bankruptcy case rather than help them month by month and then you take all of your savings and it's gone? No. One time. I would recommend a bankruptcy case for you. You go get out of debt. I'm not going to help you for the rest of it. And then you got to learn to live inside a budget. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, and it takes practice. I did not like that word.
Yes.
I did not like that word at all. But the more I started looking at the things that make me happy, that I feel like I have to have in my life. And a lot of it was more time with, my kids, because they are adults now. More time with my sweetheart, more time with my mom and his mom, and a lot of times it's not, I have to tell them, hey, it's not, you don't have to give me gas money because I took you to your doctor's appointment, but they want to do something. I said, well, okay, well, take me to my favorite place to eat, or maybe I need to get, some stuff for the house or something, because they feel like they need to do something, because in one space I'm someone's mother, and in another space I'm someone's child. So I don't want to keep someone from giving, but I don't want them to think that it's a requirement when I come to help them, because it's not. I just want to spend this time with you. And it is always a bonus when I get to spend time by myself with my mom, because I'm the oldest of four. And you get single child treatment sometimes when you're with my mom. She might make you your special stuff. And I brag to my siblings, it was like you weren't even born today, because she made me all my favorite things, and we didn't even talk about any of you, But reevaluating what's most important, because for people who like to go shopping, it may be a dirty word. It was one to me at one point. What are you trying to say to me, is what my response was to this suggestion. Going to the thrift store. or going to resale shops or going to consignment stores as opposed to you having to have it new. Learn to purchase things at auctions, which will take planning because it's not like your car breaks down and there's an auction tomorrow and you can go. You do have to plan. And what I found by looking at my budget more, Christine, is that I started looking at everything more systematically, not robotic, but just like, okay, well, if I do this, it'll allow me to do this. I can do multiple things. If I do this, I can only do one thing. If I do this, and it helps me, even like when I got to pick the kids up, I say kids that 28 and 29 and 18, but the kids nonetheless, if I got to pick them up, I make a route, okay, you're closest, you're furthest away, or whatever.
Yep.
So everything gets a new look when you're planning because one thing does affect the other. Ironically, this show season, these 13 weeks, I've been talking about affordable housing and things that affect affordable housing. And it's not just that you lose your home and everything else happens, but it is a domino effect. If I can't pay my rent or my mortgage, I'm not going to be able to pay, other little things that are needed because at the house you have the light, the water, the gas, whatever, utilities you have at the house. But if you lose your house, you don't have those other bills, but you also don't have a place to stay, more than likely.
Yep.
Or you don't have control over your environment because you're living with someone else or, needing help from someone else. So you have very little control over your environment, which should be, motivation for you to increase your financial situation if you can. I remember renting a room out. I've rented a room out in my place several times and have long-term friendships afterwards. But I suggested that to other people who have come to me and said, oh, I need to have a little extra money, to come into the house. And I was like, well, if you have an extra bedroom, you could rent it out. Oh, I don't want a stranger in my house. They don't stay a stranger long as what I try to advocate. But, some people just won't. And it's an emotional thing because I don't want nobody in my space. And I laughed. I said, well, you can't afford to be in your space. So if you don't invite someone to come and rent a room, you won't be in your space. So you won't have to worry about somebody else being in your space. So these are over the years, lots of things I've looked at differently. And it all goes to your budget because if you have a $1,000 rent or mortgage payment and you can get someone to split that in half with you, then $500 have been freed up from you worrying about how it's going to get into the house. And if you had $1,000, but now this other person is here to pay part, then you can, spend that $500 on something else that you may need. Continue to prepare yourself for recession. And we don't have abundance of money just laying around because I got this great idea to have a big chunk of money somewhere. The everyday person does not have a big chunk of money. When I would do things for my kids that would have a season pass or something that gets many visits to this place of entertainment, catch my breath. And it was a way to save money because when I didn't have the money, they had this pass. So we didn't feel broke. Okay, this is a thin week. Go take your pass and, go do whatever activity we've provided for. So it's a lot. It's a lot of things to look at because every part of our lives are affected. Going to get your hair done, shopping, going out to eat, gas in your car, the car that you drive, and all of these things. At one point, Christine, I tell you, I felt like I was being punished. I have to give this
up. It does feel like it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it feels like punishment. But yes, it feels like punishment. And there's another way of looking at it. So if we can look at something from 360 degrees, right? Full circle dimensional, that's only one aspect. Sure, I got to cut back on my budget. Woe is me. I can't get my nails done or my eyebrows or my hair, because this is not my natural color. So, sure, I don't wear makeup, okay, but I love a good hair day. So I'm not going to spend money on that, which I know is a lot for us ladies. And so I'll put all my money in my hair. So, I make those concessions because, I'm not a big fan. I can't do the fingernail thing or the makeup thing, but man, I love a good hair day. So, I'll make my concessions there, and when we can, like what you're talking about at the beginning, instead of going out, can I do that ribeye at home? Absolutely. Practice, a little practice. I love YouTube for recipes or things like that. You go to the library to learn. Way out of control there with your budget, young lady. You're totally reeling it in by doing all this free stuff. And if people just take a little bit and cut the budget. It's not going to hurt. It's like, think about the frog in the pot of water, right? There's a theory there that if you put a frog in a boiling pot of water, he's going to jump out. The reason why we're so much in debt and we're so ingrained in the way we think things should be, like you said, I'm not going to cut that back, I got to get my eyebrows done, it's because they put the frog in a pot of water that's not boiling yet, and then they slowly turn up the heat a little bit by raising your gas prices, raising your food prices. You're going to go further into debt. Next thing you know, you're going to turn around and go, it's the same thing for somebody who's obese and overweight. How did I get here? One bite at a time. How did I get into debt? One charge at a time. And so they don't realize that heat's been slowly turned up. Next thing you know, they're in a pot of boiling water. What happens to the frog? They die. They don't jump out because they've been desensitized. That's what's happening to America, Catherine, and it's breaking my heart. I wish people would not go into debt to begin with. But it's because, like you said, they're living paycheck to paycheck. They have no emergency fund, and everybody thinks because the credit card company is the one that brainwashed you in the first place and says, what's in your wallet? You need a credit card for emergencies. No, you don't. You need cash. Cash should be in your wallet. Please put some cash in your wallet today.
Yes. Christine, we're going to wrap up our time here yet again. Thank you so much for being here and talking with me about recession-proof in our lives. I want you to tell people how to get in touch with you outside of This Needs to Be Said.
Thank you. It's Christine Kingston. My firm is Surf City Lawyers here in Huntington Beach, California. On the web, it's www.surfcitylawyers.com, or just give us a call, 714-533-9210. We're here to help.
Thank you so much. Until next time, have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
This needs to be said. All the while we're keeping it real, yes. There's so much to be